everybody doing today? Welcome in. Hello, hello. Today we're going to be talking about book meanings or intuition and how do you know which ones to use or to trust. And I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. I'm just going to make sure everything's working as far as the tech. Really quick, let me know if you can see me and hear me. When you are reading tarot, do you go with the book meaning or do you go with the intuitive meaning? I'd love to hear. Let me just check on everything. I've been having an issue with not being able to see the Facebook comments. So let me open this up in another tab so that I can make sure that I'm catching any comments on Facebook as well. It's really wild. I have to run 3 tabs just to see all the comments, it seems like a little much. Okay, let's see here. I think I've got it. All right. Yes, you can see me and hear me. Amazing. Awesome. Awesome. I use both book and intuition. Amazing. I think that when you look at the tarot guidance that's out there, if you do a Google search, I actually did this the other day. If you do a Google search, you're going to find a bunch of people that say, throw out the guidebook, use your intuition only. And then you find a bunch of people that say, you're not doing it right if you're not using the book meaning, if you're not using the regular meanings, the traditional meanings of each card, right? And so you find a lot of these sort of definitive, you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. And I honestly think that it's that both of those ways of thinking about this are very limiting. I use mainly intuition. Awesome. Alrighty, let me add to the stream my little presentation that I put together for you guys. So today we're going to be talking about both. We're also going to be talking about how to decide which to use. We're going to be talking about the method that I think helps you use both at the same time. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about, let's start with kind of the idea that you have to use one or you have to use the other. This sort of choose sort of mentality that I see everywhere when it comes to tarot teachings. Yeah, you know a lot of meanings really well, so I tend to trust my gut. Yes. Well, and I think that the method that I teach really does help with knowing enough about the card to where you can use it as a jumping off point. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. But the thing of it is if you use the book meanings only, you're not connected to your intuition. You're not connecting to the sort of magic that I think we all love about tarot. I think that when you use book meanings only, you're really going to feel less connected to the person that you're in front of, connected to the reading, and I feel like it's a very left brain sort of thing, right? Like we're trying to logic our way through a tarot reading. Whereas on the other side, when you use intuition only, it might feel a little ungrounded. It might feel a little too much like making things up. And don't get me wrong, I am not against making things up. It's definitely something that I learned that to let the consciousness stream within a reading, especially because I did my own personal training under pressure in live environments. that to let the stream of consciousness flow, which could be considered making it up, was really beneficial and actually more connected to my intuition than anything else. So there's a difference, I think, between letting that stream of consciousness through and actually making something up that's not grounded. And you might have seen that on like TikTok or something where people are doing readings, and you see every single one of them, not a single interpretation is grounded in any sort of foundation of the actual card meaning. And so to me, I would never get a reading from somebody like that. I wouldn't trust them to read for me. So I think for me, I would also want to get readings done for me with somebody who knows the card meanings and knows how to follow their intuition. So for me, it's even if I were to receive a reading, I would want it to be both, right? Brandy says both. Honestly, I use intuition first, but if I'm feeling unsure, I check the book. Kelly says I use the cards as a guide when reading, things pop into my head and I'm always right. Yes, that's exactly it, right? What we can do is we can use the cards and their meanings for the baseline and allow intuition to flow into. And we're going to kind of talk about what to do when that happens. But really, I think that a mixture of the two is the whole picture of tarot. And then I think to limit yourself to just one is doing yourself and anybody that you read for a huge disservice. Okay, so let's talk about the one keyword method, because I think that this is the thing that makes it all possible. Because I think when you listen to the intuition only crowd, you hear throw the guidebook away, look at the images, trust your intuition. And honestly, that's really good for an intuition exercise, right? I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that method generally, but I think to only use that method is just really limiting. Whereas the one keyword method allows us to assign a keyword to each card that then activates our intuition. So the keyword is based off of actual card meaning, and using the card with the keyword on it as a study deck or during our time studying. By the way, I still use my keyword cards all the time. So it's okay to continue using your cards with keywords on them, even after you're done studying. There's no like, I'm not a real tarot reader until I'm done using my keyword cards. No, it's not like that at all. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the method itself. And I created a journal page for you guys. So if you'd like the journal page, go ahead and drop keyword in the chat, and I'll drop the free journal page for you guys. But basically, what you do with the one keyword method, and by the way, this came about because I was really struggling to learn tarot. I was trying to memorize the meanings. It was not working for me. But already in my lives for TikTok, I had been labeling my oracle cards with one keyword, or sometimes more. But I was putting keywords on my oracle cards so that I could do sight reading on my lives. So I was already using this method with oracle, and I thought, what if I did this with tarot too? So I wrote a keyword on each of my cards, and then I just started doing readings with them. But I think the step that I think that I took that a lot of people miss, and this is to journal on your keyword. So I spent about 90 days journaling on my keywords. This means that I did about one per day, right? And I skipped a few days here and there. But I spent about 3 months when I was learning tarot, just like journaling on my keywords and exploring what each keyword meant for me. And I actually created the Tarot Reflections Journal in the school, all about this. And the journal that I'll be providing you guys today, the free journal, is also based off of this as well. So I'm going to show you my card here. So what I've done is I've just pulled one of my cards. So I really love my Light Seers deck. This is one of the decks that I use in the High Priestess Tarot School during the trainings. You can see I put a little washi tape on here, and I've written the word curious. I use fine tip Sharpies and washi tape. You can actually peel this off very easily. The one thing about labeling your cards with the washi tape like that, though, is until you kind of wear them down, it adds a little bulk to your deck. So for example, I put them all right here on the corner. So like it just until you like wear the washi tape thinner during your shuffling and stuff, it does add a little bit more bulk to your cards. But so basically it's just all about labeling one word on your card. So now if I'm a beginner and I pull this card, I see curious. So I already know one of the ways that we read the Page of Wands. This is a book meaning, and it's also an open-ended keyword. I think that this is really important too. There are a few different qualifications that I like to mention when it comes to assigning keywords. So let's pop into my keyword training. Right here. So the 3 things that you want to think of when you are assigning keywords to your cards is the keyword accurate to the card's core meaning? Is the keyword flexible enough to be used in all situations? And do you have a personal connection to the keyword assigned? These are the 3 main things to think of when you're assigning your keywords. And so when we look at this here, curious, is the keyword accurate to the card's meaning? Yes, the Page of Wands is about being curious, finding your passion, finding what you'd like to create, being curious about what you're passionate about, being curious about what you'd like to create, that sort of thing. So curious is a really good word, accurate to the card's core meaning. Is it flexible enough to be used in all situations? Absolutely. Do you have a personal connection with the keyword? So then you think, like what is it like for me to be curious? And I think that this last question here, this last qualification, do you have a personal connection? It's about making that personal connection. So in the High Priestess Tarot School, what I have is, first off, I have, sorry about this, I always do this. Okay, so first, I do have videos where I walk through each and every one of the cards. I talk about some of the keywords that I think are really good. I talk about my own keywords. You can see I use 3 different decks so that you can see each card depicted in a few different ways. I talk about my keyword. They're right on the screen too, but I also talk about some additional keywords for each. So I keep hitting the back button. I'm so sorry, guys. I should be using the navigation and I always forget. Okay, so what was I talking about? Okay, so after you label your study deck, and I feel like this is a part that a lot of people forget about, and that's about this third quality. Do you have a personal association with this? This is where you bridge book meaning and intuition. This is when you bridge it from a keyword to an understanding of the card, right? Because a keyword is just a keyword, but once you've done the journaling portion of it, then you actually have the keyword mixing with your own experience, and you now have a relationship with the card instead of a keyword on the card. And so here I have the tarot journal, which is in the High Priestess Tarot School. And what I've done for you guys today in your journal is I've just created 1 card. So these are the questions that we ask in the High Priestess Tarot School. You write down your keyword. What is your relationship with your keyword? Recall a time you've experienced or needed this energy. What were you thinking and feeling? And what advice would you give that version of you? This gives you a really nice baseline of your connection to your keyword. So this is such a pivotal step. So if you're in the High Priestess Tarot School and you've tried to skip this step, if you're like, oh, this is a lot of work to do all of this journaling, don't, because this is such a pivotal part of the process to bridge the keyword with the intuitive meaning, right? Like this helps you connect it from keyword to relationship. So did anybody comment for it? Oh yeah, and there are several people saying that they put tape in different places on the card so it doesn't bulk it up too much. Yeah, and if you're using reversals and stuff, they'll be, even if you do use the same corner, it'll be on different, like on the top or the bottom. Yeah, Jay says the journaling helped me a lot. Yeah, this is a key, right? This isn't an optional step within the one keyword process. This is the step, to be honest, to help bridge the book meaning with the intuition, with the lived experience, right? And so nobody asked for the journal. Did anybody ask for the free journal? Let me go check on Facebook. How much is the course? Do you offer a payment plan? Yeah, it's $7 a month, Kara. It's very affordable. It's work at your own pace. Let me know if you have any other questions about the course. I can walk you through it. I literally have it open in the screen right now too. So, okay, so let's drop this for Kara over here. I'm just gonna drop the link to sign up, Kara, in the chat. Does anybody want the free journal page? So basically, this is the exact same page. I'll show you guys too. So this is the exact same page that we were looking at before, but it's been stripped of the identifying items so that you can just fill it out. If you want, you can fill it out for 78 times. You can print it. You can have them printed. You can also get the Tarot Reflections Journal in the school, or you can actually buy it on Amazon as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can journal this, but this is a way for you to take the exact same journal page for free. I figured I would love for you guys to have it who are not in the school. All right, here it is on YouTube, guys. And so all you have to do is fill it out. You can draw your card. You can attach a picture of your card. You can leave this blank if you want. But basically, I just transformed that original page that's in the Reflections Journal for any card at all. Just for ease for those of you who would prefer to do it that way. Let me see on Facebook. Awesome, Kara. We'd love to have you join us. Okay, let me drop it over there too. All right, so let's get back to this. So this is why this process, I think, is such a good process. Not only is it good because you don't have to memorize anything, which I don't know how many of you guys try to memorize, but I tried to memorize and it's wildly not possible. We're talking 78 card meanings. It's not possible. I mean, over time, you build a relationship with them. You give me a card, I could probably tell you what my keyword is at this time. So I would say after a lot of practice, you do start to memorize your keywords. But even that is just one word. It's not a whole definition of the card, right? So let's move on to the next part. Let's talk about reversals, because I think reversals are something that I have a pretty unique perspective on as well, because when we're talking about memorization, we're actually not even talking about memorizing 78 meanings, right? We're talking about double that when you are reading with reversals. By the way, I don't read with reversals, so I'm going to teach you here how I do read reversals, how I treat reversals. I made that decision when I very first started reading tarot. I remember Kyle Gray said, oh, I'm not even showing the right thing, am I? Kyle Gray said he doesn't read with reversals. Raleigh Valentine said he didn't read with reversals. So many of the people that I really looked up to when it came to card readers said that they didn't read with reversals. So I was like, why am I going to pressure myself as a newbie to do that? And so I just didn't read with them at all. But what I found happening, here was the evolution for me, is no, I didn't read reversals, but I felt different energies when I would pull the cards. I would notice card combinations would be, it would give me a different frequency when I look down at the spread, right? So what I recognized is I started reading reversals, but even if they were upright or reversed, like I didn't care as much about positioning. Don't get me wrong, I do notice when something's reversed or when it's not. And I don't totally discount it anymore. But at the same time, it's less important to me than context and energy. So for me, reversals are more about what's the context of this. So I give an example right here. I'm never going to tell someone they need less joy in their life. If I get a sun that's upside down, reversed, I'm never going to tell somebody they need less joy. I might say, what's been blocking your joy? What's been standing between you and this energy? And then we work with that. So if I do choose to read it as a reversal, I would ask, like, what's blocking joy? I would never say, yep, you need less clarity and joy in your life right now, right? And I think a lot of times when we're starting out, we want to use the exact opposite meaning. So if the sun card is joy, we're like, okay, it's reversed. How do I give the opposite of joy in an invitation space, right? Like, well, you don't. So for me, it's all about context first. If the context is what's blocking you, I would say, okay, what's blocking joy? If the context is your invitation and it's reversed, I'm not going to say your invitation is less clarity and joy. I'm just going to say your invitation is joy, even though it's upside down, right? So context first for me, and then second, energy. And I'll tell you a few things about energy. I feel frequency from the cards. I always have, from the beginning when I started reading tarot. I feel like an energy coming off the cards. And so over time, I started really thinking of reversals as a spectrum. So we'll go ahead and just use this card as an example again for the Page of Wands. So this is curiosity. This is exploration towards creation and passion, right? So if I were to read this upside down, I might think of somebody who's curious about something, but maybe afraid to follow that. Maybe somebody who is unwilling to do any sort of exploration for their curiosity. Maybe they're afraid of how others are going to view them, afraid of what others are thinking, right? So on one hand, we have curious. On the other hand, we have scared to actually do anything with that curiosity, right? So that's kind of the spectrum that I might see. That's kind of the spectrum that I might see with the Page of Wands. So one of the things that I'm thinking of is, how do I ascertain where my client is on this spectrum? Are they really curious? Are they curious but afraid? Are they completely blocking any exploration of this because they're so afraid, right? So we've got the one end of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum, and we have all the places in the middle. So for me, are you reading for me? Vanessa says it resonates. Yeah, so anyway, all areas on the spectrum are in play when I'm doing a reading. And a lot of times I'm feeling into that. So that could come from just the feeling that I get with the card. But then here's the thing, when you take a card and you add more, you get more information. So let's say I'm doing a reading for Vanessa. And I'm trying to ascertain, is Vanessa like really curious about something? Is Vanessa excited about this curiosity? Is Vanessa scared about it? Look at all these reversals, by the way. We're talking about reversals and everything comes out reversed. So here we've got the moon, which feels like a lack of clarity, right? So I was talking about sometimes when people are afraid, which is definitely a keyword I associate with the moon. When people are afraid, they're not willing to step into that curiosity, right? So I'm seeing this fear going on here. I'm seeing this like want for luxury, want for, when I think about the Nine of Pentacles, I also think about legacy, like creating your legacy, but also creating a luxury and a comfortable place for yourself to be. And then we have the Two of Wands, which is about creating a plan for your creation. And it's also reversed. So to me, I might say, like with all of these supporting things, Vanessa is really excited about creating comfort for herself, but she might have fear standing in the way of making that plan and taking those steps, right? Because the 2 is right before the 3, which is taking steps towards creation. So when I add more cards, I'm then able to feel more of that frequency, right? So this one card might give up a frequency, but how is that frequency changed by the cards around it? Does this make sense to everybody? So context first, frequency second, supporting cards third. These are all factors that come to play when I'm reading reversals. And the more you practice this, the more it becomes just like second nature. For a while, it might feel a little clunky, but the more and more that you read, the more you feel, the more you understand the cards, the more you feel into the energies of the cards, the more you can just know, like if there was an 8 of Swords here, I'd be like, oh yeah, frozen because of the fear, right? An 8 of Swords next to these, for example. Yeah, frozen because of the fear. So like you kind of get these depths to your meaning with additional cards. Okay, I'm going to check on your guys' messages now. I'm filling out a new journal after years in your program. I'm curious how it, or if my relationship changed with the card over time. Yeah, and this is something that I didn't talk about either, because you can actually fill out that tarot reflection journal over and over and over again, because your associations, even with the same keyword, will likely change over time, because you as a human change over time, right? So your associations, your lived experiences change. To update, and if you're doing regular tarot readings, you're gonna see, oh, I used to read this card like a lot, and now I'm reading it like this, because I have a whole different outlook on my association with how I view this card. And it's also a reason why no two people will ever give you the same reading with the same cards, because it's always filtered through our own perception, our own self-experience in any given moment. That's how I see reversals. Yep. Welcome, Maida. Yeah, this reading is for me. Thank you. You're so welcome. So any questions about reversals, guys? And honestly, like I gave you my hierarchy. I said I use context first, energy second, supporting cards third. But that's what feels good for me. And I think one of the things that is interesting about teaching an intuitive practice, and I think something that I struggled with, especially at the beginning when I first created the school, is how do I help people with an intuitive practice that's their own? Because just because this is the good hierarchy for me when it comes to reversals doesn't mean that it's going to feel best for you. Maybe for you, it's all about context. Maybe for you, it's all about whether it's upside down or right side up. Maybe for you, it's all about the supporting cards, right? So these give you some jumping off points based off of my experience and what works for me. But I really do want to stress the fact that There's no wrong way to read tarot. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. And how do you find your way based off of the guidance that I give you, right? Everything you need with tarot is already within you. But I think a lot of the times we don't trust ourselves to make those decisions for ourselves. So the more work you can do with your own self-trust and intuition, the easier taking these concepts and making them your own will be. Okay, so let's talk about when your book and your gut disagree. Sometimes you will have an experience where your card, your intuition, has nothing to do with the actual book meaning. So let's say, for example, I look at this card and the globe on it, right? So let's say I pull this Two of Wands here, and maybe you'll see there's a little globe here. Maybe my globe reminds me of an uncle that I had. And that uncle had some specific thing that works with the context of whatever reading I'm doing. And the globe itself made me think something that is totally different than, my keyword possibility, making a plan for creation. Maybe it's like totally different, but I get this intuitive hit based off of the globe. It makes no sense at all with the card, right? Have you guys ever had that? Ever had an instance where your intuition just flew off the handle and gave you something that was totally different than the card meaning? Because I have it happen a lot. And I'll tell you, yes, James says yes. Oh, and I haven't checked on Facebook for a minute. Let me go check on Facebook. How are you guys doing over there? Sarah says, my confidence has been damped. The reading was good, but people weirded out because I drew the death card. Yeah. That sucks, Sarah. I think part of it is just making sure that you're around people that are safe to read for too, right? Lots of yeses going on over here. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so here's the thing. I never let my intuition speak without speaking it. Never might be a little too definitive. I hardly ever allow my intuition to have a ping that I don't share with my client. If my intuition gives me a strong message, I always honor it in some way. So let's say my uncle had this saying that he always used to say this piece of advice. What I would say is this card generally means making a plan for your creation, making a plan for the things that you're passionate about. This card is about being in the planning stage, but for whatever reason, my intuition is telling me that this message could be useful for you. And then I'd share the message. Maybe I'd even share like where it came from. I don't know why. I'd say to my client, I don't know why, but this globe is really standing out for me right now. And it reminds me of my uncle who used to say blah, blah, blah. So I don't know which of these is relevant for you, but I wanted to share them both. And usually your client will come back and be like, oh my God, that's such good advice. I've been thinking about blah, blah, blah. Or, oh yeah, I've been wanting to make a plan, right? They can help you to decipher which is best for them. I think a lot of times we feel like when we're starting tarot that we have to perform for people and we have to do it just right and we have to get everything right. But the expert is right in front of us. Yes, you might be an expert in tarot, but your client is an expert in themselves. And if we try to think that we're more of an expert than they are of themselves, we run into turning people off. We run into totally not hitting in a way that feels disorienting for them, right? Have you ever gotten any sort of reading where people were just so off and you're like, that's nothing like me? And it actually breaks rapport, actually. So the more that you can loop your client in and the more you can make them an expert of themselves with you and your cards as a guide to help them understand themselves better without definitive. I think that's one of the things that I do is I try not to use definitive language when I'm doing readings for people. This may be this, or it may be that. What's resonating for you? This allows the person to come in with their own expert opinion about themselves. And actually, when you read like this, you will learn so much more about the cards too, because you'll start to see the cards through lots and lots of different lenses, not just your own, which is really, really valuable as well. So, when you're not sure, offer both. Oh, let me get back to this. So yeah, when you're not sure, offer both. You're allowed to offer both. You're allowed to mention both. You're allowed to mention this is what the card means and this is the intuitive thing that's coming up for me. And honestly, I feel like this is always the best path for me. But I don't use definitive language for either, right? I let the client be the expert of their life while I'm the expert of the cards. Does that make sense? So any questions about that? Because I feel like it's such a simple answer to the, do I honor intuition or book meanings? Both. Why can't we just do both? Right? Exactly. I feel like if you're performing for them, you could run into problems with the reading. Yeah. And I think so much of the time when we're brand new, we think that we have to perform and we think that we have to prove how good we are or how much we know or how psychic we are. But people aren't coming to us for that. They're coming to us for guidance. And when you can learn how to use the tarot card to help your client unlock pieces of themselves, when you can learn to use them to help your client be an expert of themselves, it's so much more benefit than just telling them what to do or who to be or what to believe. Because the thing of it is advice that you give someone is not going to land nearly as deeply as advice they give themselves, even if it's the same advice. That's something I know from coaching. Yeah, James says, I used to be annoyed by people saying it was just psychological stuff. And I think that to say just, I think is the problem there because yes, tarot is psychological. Yes, tarot can be spiritual. I think it is definitely psychological. I think that it's, if you want it to be spiritual, it can be spiritual. So I think that the just here is doing a lot of disservice, right? Because I definitely agree, it's psychological. But yes, now I know it is. It's a way to access things that would have otherwise stayed hidden. Exactly. It's a mirror. It's tarot is a mirror to the subconscious. In addition to any other, spiritual meanings that you'd like to give it. It's funny. One of the hardest questions that I answer on especially this comes up on Facebook on my business page a lot in the DMs. What is tarot exactly? What does it mean? And it means whatever you want it to mean, right? If you want to think of it as a message from your higher self, you can do that. If you want to think of it as a message from your spirit guide, you can do that. If you want to actually channel a deity through your cards, you can do that. But it's whatever you decide it means for you. One of the things that I used to do in my TikTok lives is I would tell people what to believe. And I was literally feeling like I was starting a cult. So I decided that probably wasn't the best. the best route for me. And now I leave things really open for people to believe what they want to believe. And I try to ethically um, position all of my teachings to allow for the vast diversity in who we are and what we believe, if that makes sense. Any questions about that, guys? I know it's a really simplistic version of you can have both, right? So think of tarot as a conversation. Whether you're doing a tarot reading for yourself or a tarot reading for a client, it's all about the conversation. It's all about opening up lines of communication. We actually have one of our bonuses that I just dropped in the High Priestess Tarot School yesterday. Has it been 2 days now? Is the tarot conversations. The only time that this has ever been available is during tarot treatments, but it came up for a few of our students the other day, a couple weeks ago in one of these trainings, that it would be really useful for people. So I went ahead and I added it as a bonus this month. And this is so great because I've actually taken and I've given some questions for each card. So whether you're using this for yourself or others, if you pull the High Priestess, for example, you can ask, has your gut been telling you something? You can ask, what happens if you just sit with this question? You can ask, do you feel like there's something beneath the surface that's waiting to be understood? So you can actually use this to help facilitate that conversation until you get good at using tarot as a conversation. I think that this is something I did very well naturally because I had been a coach for multiple years before I started my tarot journey. So I already knew how to ask these like really powerful questions. And so I just mixed it into my tarot readings. And so we've been also getting a lot of questions about tarot and coaching together. So I am going to have some more on that in the future, by the way, if that's something that interests you. But this is one of the things that really helps to mix coaching into your tarot and to focus in on tarot as a conversation instead of like a performance, kind of like what we were talking about before. I'm going to start a cult for cookies. Well, I could give you tips. I didn't know I was doing it, but it certainly felt like I was. So I had to reel it back a little bit. Cult leader was not on my list of preferred professions, to be honest. Coffee. I love coffee. I'll be a part of your coffee cult, James. Okay, guys, any questions? So basically, assign a keyword to each card. Use your journal to journal about each and every card to create that association with the card itself. And then when you're doing your readings, allow yourself to have both. Allow yourself to, I think the more freedom you give yourself in your reading, the more relaxed that you'll be while you're reading, the more fun you'll have with it, the less overthinking you'll do. So just allow yourself to have both or all, or allow yourself to be as flexible as possible. One of the things that I notice that people have a hardest time with when it comes to like spreads is they tend to want the card to directly answer their question, when in fact, a lot of times it's a little clue to the answer. So I think that when we start to allow ourselves to freely think through what the card could be talking about, instead of trying to make the card fit into the box of the question, we're able to like really open up that mirror that we were talking about, right? Any questions at all, guys? I'm on Monster Energy, Kara. I love it. This will be powerful. I've done some coach training, but never took it further just because of my kids. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that bonus in the High Priestess Tarot School, that conversation, this will be available until the 15th of next month. I do replace the digital bonuses in the High Priestess Tarot School every 15th. Sometimes it's a little bit later, depending on if the 15th falls on a weekend or whatnot, but approximately the 15th. All right. Any questions? No questions at all, guys. All righty. Well, by the way, you can sign up for the Tarot Mastery Circle. I do have a bunch of people on the waiting list now that I need to reach out to. If you sign up for the High Priestess Tarot School, which is $7 a month, you will get a 48-hour window in which you can upgrade to Tarot Mastery Circle. This is where we do certification. This is where we do our practice sessions. This is where you get a free spread every week. So if you're wanting to go even deeper than the High Priestess Tarot School, if you want to have more of the face-to-face, if you want to have more practice, certification, and that's $27 a month, and it includes the High Priestess Tarot School. Any other questions before I go, guys? I love the images in the new drop, right? Oh my goodness, I love them too. So these were based off of a Persephone pack that I did for the SVS Creator Vault. And aren't they just so pretty? Look at this. I love the sort of black and red aesthetic just in general. I'm a dark romance girly. I do a lot of dark romance reading. And this is like right in my dark romance lover's heart, right in that vein. Yeah, they're so pretty. Alrighty, guys. Well, if there's no questions, looking forward to it so much. We're so excited for you to join us, Kara. Let me know if you have any questions between now and then. Yeah, yeah. Tarot Mastery Circle is great because I mean there is a $99 certification fee, by the way, in addition to your monthly. But it includes the path to the certification. Alrighty, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and jump off of here. If you do have any questions, feel free to send me a message and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks for being here, guys.